Good morning, everyone. We'll get started in just a few moments. We'll get started in just a couple minutes. Thank you all for joining.
Alicia, should we go ahead and get started?
I was just about to say that, yes. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can go ahead and get started.
Good morning, everyone. Well, I am Frank Morris with Clean Cities, Georgia, and Alicia Lopez is with Southeast Florida Clean Cities. South Florida Clean Cities, sorry, Alicia, and welcome to this webinar. And we've got the housekeeping slide up just for everyone to know that we are recording this webinar, and to stay muted, that we will be hearing from several presenters, and we have planned plenty of time for them to present, but then also to allow for Q&A, which Alicia and I will be monitoring throughout the presentation, and save plenty of time at the end to take your questions. Please, you can put your questions in the chat or the question box, and we will monitor those going through the presentation. Next slide. And next slide, thank you. So I am Frank Morris, the Executive Director for Clean Cities, Georgia. Clean Cities is a national program. It's funded by the Department of Energy, and it has been in place since the early 90s. And the things that we focus on are advocating for alternative fuels in transportation. And so we're proud to present this CNG for fleets presentation. We've got a great bunch of folks to help us do that. We've got David Jaskowski for Peach State Trucks. We've got Don McCormick from Waste Management. We've got Rodney Dill from the Municipal Gas Authority of Georgia, and Ian Skelton from Atlantic Gas Light. And also Dave, Alicia, has Dave joined us from City Furniture?
He is on.
Okay, very good. So both of Both of our coalitions are conveners of interested parties that are seeking to learn more about alternative fuels and transportation to improve their greenhouse gas emissions, if you will, to improve their bottom line. And we are fuel agnostic when it comes to the fuels, whether it's propane, natural gas, electric, ethanol, biodiesel, hydrogen, or any new fuel that might come along to replace petroleum products. We are also grant managers, helping fleets and the communities manage their grants and help them to win those grants, and we administer those grants through the DOE. Next slide. Coalition strategies are focused on fleets and also the individual, and all the way from your personal car up to the heavy duty tractor trailer rigs going down the highways, and using alternative fuels in those transportation equipment. We also focus on different mobility choices and transportation technologies. Alicia and myself and many of the coalitions will often get calls from different technology companies that they've got a solution to incorporate alternative fuels, and we help to connect those people with stakeholders and members of our coalitions and municipalities and individuals interested in learning more. We also manage idle reduction technologies through DERA grants as one example of reducing idle emissions of, let's say, diesel equipment in distribution yards and so forth. And then we're also just the whole infrastructure of alternative fuels, renewable fuels, and how that cycle works, and how we can make those fuels more available, how we can make folks understand better how they can connect with fueling alternatives, where to find electric charging, where to find CNG fueling, where to find propane as an auto gas for fueling. So those are some of the things that we work on as a coalition. Thank you. Next. This is just a quick look at who supports our team in Georgia, our board of directors, as you'll hear from Ian earlier, or excuse me, later, and also David Jaskowski. You'll see that we've got folks on our team, like Rodney, that represents the Municipal Gas Authority, excuse me. We've got fleet managers, Cobb County, DeKalb County, got Georgia Power involved, the end users of many of these fleets, like UPS and the City of Atlanta, Cox Enterprises, gives you a good example of who we are and who helps support us and brings great knowledge to help us share that with our stakeholders. Next slide. So when we talk about working with municipalities, we're able to recommend alternative fuels policy, connect them with national programs when it comes to funding opportunities, and also coaching municipalities. We also take advantage of the municipalities that are out front and have done a great job in vehicle conversions to talk to other municipalities about this is what they've learned from their programs and how municipalities can also adopt the same type of technology and alternative fuels in their fleets. Next slide. So with that, I'll turn it over to Alicia Lopez from Southeast Florida Clean Cities Coalition.
Good morning, everyone. Again, thank you again for joining the webinar today. My name is Alicia, and I'm the coordinator for the Southeast Florida Clean Cities Coalition. And a little bit about our coalition: we're actually housed in the South Florida Regional Planning Council, which is in Hollywood, Florida. Our region covers Palm Beach, Broward, Miami-Dade, and Monroe counties. And we work pretty much the same as Frank mentioned, helping with conversions to alternative fuels, any outreach, education, helping with grant opportunities. So please feel free to always reach out to your local coalition if you guys have any questions in regards to any, like I said, alternative fuels. And then on our board, we have Jeff Roth from ChargePoint, Dave Clevenger, who you will actually hear from today from City Furniture, who has been a stakeholder for many years, and as well as we just recently welcomed Commissioner Beam Fur from Broward County. So he has a very big track record, especially in the city of Hollywood, with pushing alternative fueling and any sustainability efforts. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Dave Clevenger from City Furniture, who is an end user of CNG, who's going to discuss a little bit about their process and kind of how they helped work and using the fuel. Dave, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself so that we could get started.
I don't think I have it up. Could not get on the webinar through the computer, so I'm working off a phone. So we're dealing with technology today. A little bit about City Furniture. City Furniture is a 50-year-old company. We're actually celebrating our 50th year this year. We're a retail distribution furniture business out of South Florida, now growing into Central and North Florida. We have approximately 151 delivery trucks, all CNG, 8 tractors now that are running CNG, and 2 yard spotters that we've ventured out into the electric field. We got a couple of Ottawa electric spotters, a couple of the first ones in the country. Just to give you a little brief how we got into the alternative fuel system. Around 2012, my owners, Keith Koenig and Andrew Koenig, decided, they started looking to the future, and we were running all diesel, putting many miles on our vehicles, and decided it was time to look into what's in the future. And the future was alternative fuels for us. So they gave me the task in 2012, said, hey, Dave, good, we got something great for you. I'm like, okay, here comes a pink slip or something coming. But he goes, no, we got a challenge for you. Find us an alternative fuel to run our vehicles on to make us cleaner and greener. We're started opening all our stores and locations being LEED certified. And part of that is to change over to alternative fuels and make it a cleaner environment for our delivery process as well. So I researched for about a year and went through everything I could find, because I'm a retired veteran. I got my first paycheck at 14 years old working on diesel vehicles. I was a diesel guy through and through, down to my bone. So researching everything, I was like, wow, this is going to be tough. I don't understand too much about this alternative fuel system. And so I did a lot of learning, a lot of going out, seeing different companies, a lot of waste refuge up north, and to see just what we could do for our vehicles. So I decided on compressed natural gas. Then the challenge really began, because in our field, we need mid-level vehicles, medium-duty vehicles, and there was just nothing out there. Couldn't find a medium-duty delivery truck anywhere. So that began the first part of the challenge. Second part of the challenge.
Hey, Dave, I think we just lost your audio.
So I thought I was on a losing battle here. So I worked with a company out of Leesville, out of Louisiana, Eagle Trucking, developed a truck, a medium duty truck for our needs, and that was the Isuzu MPR HD. Set research, helped develop it about 6 months, and finally got a vehicle in here that would work for us. It was smaller, it didn't hold as much capacity, but it would work for our needs. So we started out with 5 dedicated CNG vehicles, and I realized we were running out of fuel on the road a lot. This was not going to work. Back to the drawing board. So I had to find a biofuel system. We developed that with a momentum fuel system. And then I said, wow, where are we going to fill up? So we had to get a station. So we built our station in 2013, opened it up, our own station here in Tamarack. Got a 4-stage compressors through TrueStar. Started that process, which is another challenge, but we overcame it and we learned a lot from that. So today we're running the CNG station here at Tamarack. Have been running since 2013. We have 50 fill posts with 2 fill lines on each. We're able to fill our trucks overnight, time fill, and also do quick fills throughout the day. We've went through a lot of challenges throughout the years, learned a lot, learned tremendous amount. Had to realize that you know, we have to teach our technicians. We didn't have many technicians around the area to repair our vehicles. So put our technicians through training. We learned also we had to build a shop to be able to work on those vehicles. So we converted our shop over to CNG, able to use CNG inside the shop itself, which was another challenge. But we've also learned a lot in this time frame of the cost savings, the environmental savings, the better aspect for our vehicles. The vehicles actually run cleaner, better. Our drivers actually like them a lot better. As you see on the slide there, our average use is approximately 80,000 gas gallons equivalent. And then we're using about 29,000 gallons of gasoline on that buy side. The range for us was the biggest challenge. We have a 32-gallon tank on our CNG trucks, but we're running outside of areas. We run anywhere from mile marker 0 in the Keys all the way up to and including St. Petersburg, Tampa area, things like that. So we had to get that range, get back and forth, which necessitated the gasoline biofuel on there. But we're using that to the smallest amount possible, and we're actually getting it done. We're doing over 400,000 miles monthly. Our cost of CNG right now compared to gasoline, it's right at half. I mean, you can't beat it with a 62.52% savings just on the delivery trucks themselves. We've added our 8 tractors recently within the last 2 years. We started transferring process because we opened a DC in Coe, Florida, up by Orlando. So we're transferring back and forth. I worked out a deal with Peterbilt to get a dedicated CNG tractor through them with a Cummins near 0 in it. And I can't explain how happy I am with this vehicle. We're running back and forth 8 loads a night to the Orlando area, dedicated CNG, no issues there, up and back 4 times on a single fill up of CNG. It's worked out tremendous for us on cost wise. Cost of fuel, maintenance cost is lower. It's just a win-win-win. We started out our cost. There's one of the issues where I was really concerned, and I think any new anybody who's looking to start up a CNG fleet or build their own station, the initial cost is kind of staggering at first, but when you work it all out and get the ROI on it, it works itself out, and ROI is pretty quick. We initially started our first CNG station, cost about 1.2, and then to convert our vehicles to an extra 20 grand on top of what the cost of the vehicle is initially. The training cost, as I said, for the mechanics about $500 to get the technicians understanding the natural gas, the CNG applications for the vehicles. But it all works itself out. And the maintenance cost on station for us is the routine maintenance. This is not the annual or the quarterly services on the CNG station. So, but it's about $8,000. That's your oils. That's your daily upkeep. That's just daily maintaining of the station. The PM cost for our vehicles have dropped. You know, it's 88. For the CNG is about 81.25 less than standard vehicle. For me to have one of my techs service one of our CNG vehicles, it's about $30. That's the oil change, that's your filters, that's going through doing everything, and time of labor. When it was averaging about 164, 84 for me to do the same PM on one of our diesel vehicles. So the maintenance cost has come down. The fuel cost has come down. We have our own stations here at Tamarack, so the convenience is there. Our operators like the CNG vehicles, how they ride, how they drive, everything a lot better than they did the diesels. So it's a win-win-win-win situation. So City Furniture, we're quite happy with our alternative fuel vehicles. We love the conversion over to CNG and alternative fuel so much that we've dedicated that in our 2040 carbon neutral pledge, which the city is one of our pledges for City Furniture Corporate, that we are determined never to go back to anything. We're never going to use or buy anything but an alternative fuel vehicle. We're reaching out into the electric field, but that we know right now that that's not ready for our application. It's going to be a few years before that. But we're reaching out, trying to find any new alternative fuel system vehicles that we can do or buy. Boom. There's a lot of benefits to the alternative fuel. You get your yearly grants through the state of Florida, and we work on that. And we have a committee that makes sure that we keep updated on all grants for the vehicles themselves, all the grants for building our stations. And right now we're building another DC in Miami Gardens, Florida. We're starting with TrueStar. They break ground next month on that CNG station. We've opened a new DC in Ocoee, Florida. They broke ground, last week on that station. And starting July, we'll be open in July. By January, we'll break ground for the CNG station in Tampa or Plant City, Florida, on our new 1,300,000 square foot DC in that area. We've committed to every DC that we open, we will have a CNG station operating there, along with charging stations for electric vehicles. So the Koenigs have put a ton of money into what they believe is the right decision, helping with environmental, getting the best product out to our customer, and doing it in the cleanest way we possibly can. And I couldn't give them more credit at all, because this came out straight out of pocket in the beginning. They made the commitment. They stood by what they said when they want a clean environment, and they actually paid for everything and got it rolling. So I couldn't be prouder to work for a company like City Furniture, and hope to be with them a few more years until I retire and develop a little better, cleaner, not only fleet, but facilities and everything, every aspect of our business. Right now, that's about all I got. And I apologize again for the technical difficulties. That's one thing that I'll have to work on as well. But for this presentation, that's about all I got for it right now. Thank you. I'll answer any questions you may have as we go along.
Thank you, Dave. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Dawn, and Dawn, go right ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Dave, thank you for that and for the good work that City Furniture has done. You've really been a leader in that area, and we really appreciate it. Thank you, too, for your service for our country. I'm pleased to be the Director of Communications and Government Affairs for Waste Management in Florida. I'm real proud to talk about our CNG for Fleets project in North America, and then I'll focus specifically on Florida and Georgia. So this slide coming up shows us about our footprint for waste management in North America. We have just shy of 50,000 employees. We are a Fortune 250 company. We have over now 10,000 alternative fuel vehicles, 171 natural gas fueling stations, and in 104 of our situations, we use landfill gas to energy facilities. I just highlight that because we're also doing it in our post collections facilities. But this presentation is really going to focus on our collection vehicles and our use of alternative fuels. I also want to highlight a little bit of our overall sustainability goals. Alicia, that's the next slide. In 2038, Waste Management set an ambitious goal to offset 4 times our greenhouse gas emissions that we generate by 2038. And to do that, we are reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 2%, a little over 2% every year. And we also have people goals about making our communities in which we work safe, resilient, and sustainable. When you look a little shorter term, our 2025 goals is that 70% of our collection fleet will be using alternative fuels by 2025. We're well on our way to meeting that goal. And 50% of our alternative fuel vehicles will run on renewable natural gas. We're not doing that in Florida, but we are doing it elsewhere around the country. And then also at our locations, 100% renewable energy at the sites that we control by Waste Management. So overall, when you look at our larger fleet numbers across the country, and that's the next slide, Alicia, we have 17,000 trucks in our portfolio to service our 20 million customers. Our drivers drive about 450 million miles every year. I'm real proud to say that about 85% of our new truck purchases are all natural gas vehicles. And we've reduced our emissions to date by 36% when you look at 2010 to 2019. So we're well on our way to meeting many of our goals. And that other map just shows you where we have RNG facilities around the country. You'll see that we don't have them in Florida, but we have them elsewhere. And we have a big commitment to expanding our renewable natural gas portfolio. Company-wide on our closed loop fueling system, just highlight a couple of these numbers on this slide. 350,000 metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions is what our company has reduced, and we do that annually through the use of natural gas and RNG fuel. And we are replacing about 1.07 billion diesel gallons of fuel over that useful life of these facilities and of those trucks. So really proud of those major reductions in both greenhouse gas emissions and the use of diesel. And right now, not in Florida, but a lot of on the West Coast, we have 5,000 natural gas vehicles that are fueled by landfill gas, or actually gas produced from animal manure. So we're doing a lot of innovative things in this field, and pleased to continue to look at alternative fuels for our vehicles. If you want to take a look at the map here, this is a map of where we have a footprint of CNG and LNG, and that spans 36 states. We continue to expand. 8,900 trucks. We're now up to over 10,000, I said on the earlier slide. Again, 60% of our fleet is alternative fuels, and we have 171 fueling stations, 25 of which around the country are public access. We do that where we can. We can't do it everywhere, but we try to make them public access if we can. This slide shows, I think, something we all know about the environmental benefits of our CNG fleet. Each truck reduces diesel. We save 8,000 gallons of fuel per year. We cut greenhouse gas emissions 21%, which is about 22 metric tons for each vehicle. The reduction in carbon monoxide is 80%, 25% carbon dioxide emission reduction, and 30% nitric oxygen or nitrogen oxides. This slide shows you our slow fill or time fill station in Pompano Beach. We have slots there for 200 of our vehicles. It's one of our most active, largest collection districts in the state of Florida, in Pompano Beach, serving Broward County, and that site is very, very active. And that is our time fill location. Overall, when you look at our CNG fleet in Florida and Georgia, we have 1,150 CNG trucks in Florida. That's 58% of our fleet. 343 in Georgia, 34% of our fleet. We're all in line for capital from our corporate headquarters in Houston, so it's often a battle to get those dollars, but we've done a good job in Florida of changing over our fleet. And again, 85% of our future buy is all alternative fuel CNG trucks. When you look at our fueling stations, there are 14 in Florida, 14 in Georgia. The photo here is of our public station in Pompano Beach. We have that along with the time fill, and this is open to, at this point, mostly fleets. Other fleets utilize this station, and it is the only public station in Florida that we've been able to build to this point, but we do continue to look for opportunities to do so as we're building stations. The next slide shows the map of where our CNG facilities are throughout Florida. So take a look if you're interested in specifically where we're at. We are currently building a site in Jacksonville and also one in Martin County, Hope Sound. So this year we'll be adding 2 more. So the total investment Waste Management has made in CNG in Florida and Georgia is about $500 million in Florida, $200 million in Georgia when you take our vehicles and our fueling stations all together. And just really pleased about the commitment the company's made towards CNG and alternative fuel. And I'll look forward to answering any questions at the end of the webinar. And I'm pleased to turn it over to Dave right now. So thank you all.
Good morning, everyone. My name is David Jaskolski. I'm responsible for Advanced Technology Vehicle Centers at Peach State Truck Centers in Norcross, Georgia. Next slide. Established in 1974, we're a very large company representing a lot of different brands. I'll show on the next slide, including Freightliner and Ford commercial vehicles. To our friends in Florida, we have connections with dealers throughout Florida. And as you see something that of interest in this presentation, feel free to reach out to me and I can help you connect you with the right dealer. Next slide. We're going to start looking at some of the Ford commercial vehicle CNG options. Ford offers a very, very wide array of CNG vehicles. And when I say CNG, also remember anything that's CNG can use RNG, renewable natural gas. It's a direct replacement. And in the correct applications and correctly equipped, LNG, liquefied natural gas. Ford produces the truck to be ordered with the CNG gaseous engine prep package, and then the vehicles are upfitted with tanks and other equipment by what's called a qualified vehicle modifier. And they are the ones that are going to install the tanks and the hardware. It's important to remember as we look at these trucks, that when it's converted to CNG, Ford maintains the engine and the powertrain warranty. Only the modifier is responsible for the tanks. Next slide. So let's look at some of the trucks that are actually available in a wide variety of applications. First is the F-250 and F-350 pickup. These are commonly found in Class 2, Class 3 vehicle operations. When we say vehicle class, what we're talking about is what the vehicle weight rating is. And so if I'm talking about a Class 2 vehicle, I'm talking about things that are 6,000 to 10,000 pounds. Gross vehicle weight rating. Class 3 is 10,000 to 14,000 pounds. Next slide. We also offer this in a chassis cab, so where the pickup cab is appropriate, but you need something other than a pickup bed, a specialized body, let's say for air conditioning service where they're keeping their tools on the side. This is the type of truck we offer. Next slide. And then there's the E-Series Cutaway. Now this actually goes up in the gross vehicle weight rating class to Class 3 and Class 4. So now we're getting up to a vehicle that can handle 14,000 pounds. These are in a wide variety of applications, anything from what you see a moving van to airport shuttles and hotel shuttles. Next slide. Now let's get into some of the bigger vehicles offered by Ford, the F650 and F750 cab and chassis. These are rated now up to 33,000 pounds. So we're getting into Class 7 trucks. Next slide. Also very popular for CNG is what we call the strip chassis for parcel vans. So the vans that you see in your neighborhood commonly with companies like UPS and Amazon delivering parcels, we can sell them the chassis and then upfit it with a body and they run it on CNG. It's a great application. Next slide. We're going to shift gears now and look at some of the offerings that come from Freightliner. Freightliner in the Class 7, Class 8 market is the #1 supplier of trucks, about 34–35% of the market share. First one we're going to take a look at is the M2 112 natural gas truck. And this can be equipped either as a truck, which hauls its load on its back with some sort of a body, or as in this picture, a tractor, something that pulls a trailer. So we use the word truck interchangeably, but if it hauls a load on its back, it's a truck. If it pulls a trailer, it's known as a tractor. You can see behind the cab the stack of CNG tanks that were installed. This is an agility package and gives the truck great range. Next slide. The M2 112 can be a Class 7 or 8. It comes with Cummins L9N power. Cummins is one of the first builders of diesel engines, and they've been in business for probably 100 years, and they build a great natural gas engine. We offer it in the M2 112 from 250 to 320 horsepower and up to 1,000 pound-feet of torque, combined with an Allison 3000 or 4000 transmission. And it is available in a wide variety of cabs, a day cab, an extended cab, which can have a sleeper, and crew cab models. Next slide. Now we're going to look at something different. This is what we call a severe duty truck. The severe duty designation means this thing is going to get beat up. It's going to go off highway, such as an application with a dump truck. So you're loading it with dirt, taking it to a job site, and then it's a rough job site. So they are really tough built trucks. Next slide. These get a little larger in size, still Class 7 or 8. Now we can offer in this, in addition to the Cummins L9N, a larger ISX 12N. So we can go to a 12-liter engine. And that means we can go to additional horsepower up to 400 and additional torque up to 1,450 foot-pounds. Available with Allison 3000 and 4000 automatic transmissions. We can get it as a day cab, extended cab with a sleeper option, and crew cabs. Next slide. And now the big daddy, the tractor trailer, the Freightliner CNG Cascadia. This has been a tremendous success for Freightliner nationwide. SAIA had a recent, a major freight company had a release where they're deploying 5 of these out in California, and they run throughout the country. Next slide. These are designed as a tractor, so it's always going to have a trailer behind it. It's a Class 8 vehicle and designed for 80,000 pounds gross combined weight. That's the tractor, the trailer, the payload, everything. And that's the maximum you can put on the road. There is an exemption, and now I think for an additional 2,000 pounds, which the vehicle is capable of. Comes with a Cummins ISX 12N engine, which we talked about in the previous slide, with 400 horsepower and 1,450 foot-pounds of torque. That means the truck can operate anywhere in the United States, including in the mountains. It's available with both manual and automated transmissions up to 18 speeds. And just a note, an automated transmission is a manual transmission that shifts itself, different than an automatic transmission. It's taken some years, but now the software is configured where it's a perfect match for a CNG engine. Day cab and sleeper configurations up to 72-inch, and that's the size of the sleeper. And lightweight options for wheels, axle carries, and fifth wheels. Since a CNG tractor is slightly heavier than a conventional diesel tractor, we can add different options, such as the wheels, axle carries, and fifth wheel, that bring that weight back down and keep things in parity. CNG options are available to order today. From small delivery vans to Class 8 tractor trailers, these are proven trucks, factory built, that you can order right now. At our dealership and many dealerships throughout Georgia and Florida, there are technicians that are trained to work on CNG, and the parts availability is excellent. CNG is just a great fit for a wide variety of applications. Next slide. And so here's my contact information. If you have any questions on vehicle availability, either in Georgia or Florida, reach out to me and I'll be happy to make sure we get you connected with the right people. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Rodney Dill with the Municipal Gas Authority.
Hey, great. Thank you, David. I'm Rodney Dill with the Municipal Gas Authority of Georgia. I'm the Director of Member Services and Communications with the authority, and I'm happy to be here with you today. Let me first of all just want to thank both Frank and Alicia for organizing this, and just the value too. Right out of the gate here, just emphasize the value of clean cities. I know from our perspective, the municipal perspective, certainly looking at clean cities or toward clean cities is that organization that can, help us locate grant opportunities. Certainly the networking and understanding how, different fleets have incorporated really any alternative fuels, but especially CNG in our case has been very helpful. So just a shout out to the Clean Cities organization, both in Florida and Georgia. Alicia, next slide there. Let me give you a little background on the Municipal Gas Authority of Georgia. We are what's called a natural gas joint action agency. And really what that means is that we represent municipally owned natural gas distribution systems. We've got 80 municipal members in our organizations throughout 5 states, mainly in Georgia. And the primary purpose of our organization is to provide natural gas supply for these municipally owned and operated distribution systems. So you can see a little bit of a profile of our organization. If you collectively consider us, we're right at 260,000 customers, and you can see our mission there. And also too, we provide key services for the municipals in our organization beyond gas supply and asset management, rate design and forecasting, industrial customer support, marketing and communications, and business development, which gets into CNG and the transportation sector. Great, thanks, Alicia. Here's a little bit of a profile. You can see here the interstate pipelines here, the blue that comes in through the state, into our state, into Georgia, and then you can see also too where barely, but you can see where a lot of our municipals are actually located. The municipally owned distribution system, there's actually about 84, there are 84 in Georgia and 64 belong to our organization. I think there's 22 in Florida. And just as you look at the unique position of the municipal, especially the municipally owned gas distribution system, you have the municipal certainly which operates and manages fleets. And certainly those, as you look at a fleet profile, that can be comprised of transit systems, refuse, heavy duty vehicles, medium and light duty. And then you get into county government, you got the school buses, but the typical profile is that these are return to base vehicles going out short distance and then returning back to a base. And so that is a typical profile for the municipal. And then again, as I mentioned, the unique position of of owning and operating a distribution system is being able to get the gas at a wholesale price. And so again, very, very uniquely positioned to incorporate CNG fleets within the municipal enterprise. Just a little bit of talking about the benefits of doing this. You've already heard some great presentations in terms of cost savings and maintenance savings, and the lower carbon footprint, lower emissions footprint, all tremendous drivers in terms of doing this. Just to add a couple other things as far as municipals are considered, certainly one of the things that municipal really look at is lowering the tax costs for the citizens, strategies to promote economic development. So you're looking at having a CNG operation there within the community certainly can be added to that economic development mix in terms of enhancing the local retail product and recruitment of industry. So those are additional advantages of having CNG or alternative fuels within the municipal. Next slide, Alicia. Back up just one slide, Alicia. I wanted just to show to the public stations. I meant to cover that. You can see the 4 yellow dots. Here's 4 public stations that are in Georgia. The top dot there in the northern part, this is a municipally owned and operated CNG station, the city of Covington, Georgia, located on I-20. In central Georgia, this is a privately owned CNG station, AMP CNG, which serves a lot of the Frito-Lay tractors coming out of Warner Robins or Kathleen, Georgia. And so this is served by a municipal gas system. This particular station serves AMP CNG. In the bottom section there, as you move down to Douglas, Georgia. Douglas, Georgia, this is another example of a municipally owned and operated CNG station. The anchor fleet there for that particular station is GFL Environmental, the subsidiary being Trans Waste. And I'll talk in just a minute about strategic partnerships in the report of that, but here's where Douglas was able to construct that station through a partnership with GFL Trans Waste, located on Highway 441 there in Douglas. The bottom left-hand corner, Southwest Georgia, Thomasville Refuel CNG is the public station. They also have a privately owned station as well, but this is another example where the city has leased the space from a private owner to be able to provide natural gas or CNG to the public. Next slide. Here, just an example, you can see where we try to track the GGEs that are sold on a rolling 12 basis. So, and again, this just gives you a little bit of a trend from our organization's perspective. But there's 14 active stations, the 4 public stations I just referenced, and then the 10 private stations, which are really a combination of both the municipal privately owned station, but also too behind the municipal distribution system, we've got organizations like like Frito-Lay, like UPS, that actually have own and operate stations, in the municipal simply the gas provider. So a very different model. But you can see tracking the total GGEs starting in January 14 and how the great upward trend there, and how you can see the traction in terms of station development. And all the way up now to around 2.2, 2.3 million GGEs a year. I talked about different enterprise, CNG enterprise models, just to get into a little more detail with that. The public CNG stations, I had referenced there the private ownership of the AMP CNG station, and then the municipal ownership. Again, we've talked about that too as well, and also the public-private ownership. Some specific gas authority programs that's helped really kind of foster some of these stations. Certainly, we referenced the one strategic partnership there in Douglas, but again, as the municipals consider municipal distribution systems, or the municipal itself really considers operating a station, anchor fleets and strategic partnerships are critical to getting one off the ground and getting one going. We actually, through our organization, are able to do project financing. So both the Douglas and Covington station, we were able to finance both of those projects through the authority to get those off the ground. And again, yeah, thanks. I'll go to the next slide there. I wanted to give 3 examples of 3 cities within our organization. One is the city of Albany, Georgia. Currently, as you look at the transit, here's an example of a transit system where they've incorporated 15 transit buses and the paratransit buses into their transit system. So it's fully a CNG system. And you can see the Albany fleet, over 1,200 vehicle assets there. This was actually done through a grant. You can see the fuel consumption there in Albany, and also future discussions with Daugherty County on the county school system and school buses and other vehicles within the county, possibly leading to a potential public refueling station there in Albany, Georgia. So as again, just to talk about some of the drivers, and you've heard it through city furniture, through waste management, through this presentation. Certainly as our municipal fleets have looked at this, it's been cost savings really has been the driver. You saw the differential between the diesel and GGE equivalent. That for us, it's been the GGE equivalent has been anywhere from 60 cents to $1. So you can compare that to current diesel prices and gasoline prices, and you can see very quickly the savings. Also, too, just the carbon footprint was mentioned. I think Dawn mentioned over 21% savings in greenhouse gas emissions, and also the saving or the NOx emission reductions are a tremendous benefit. Next slide. Here's the Thomasville CNG fleet, a little bit of a profile there, 9 refuse vehicles, dump truck, commuter bus, and you can see, I think it was Dave that mentioned some of the these light and medium duty vehicles as well. What really kind of launched out to the public station was building the private station first for the refuse operation. And so you can see how this community went and actually branded their CNG operation, Refuel CNG. City of Statesboro, Georgia. Here's the profile of the Statesboro CNG fleet, refuse vehicles. Again, some of the light duty biofuel vehicles there that you see both can operate on CNG and other fuel. And then one of their drivers, as I've already mentioned, fuel savings and lower maintenance cost. One thing I'll mention too, just the performance issues of CNG. One of the things I know the fleet drivers were a little nervous about operating the CNG as they went into the experiencing this, but the more that they operate them, they certainly the noise issues, the performance, lowering the noise pollution, I think around 10 decibels or so for some of these larger refuse vehicles, and then also too, they just really began to really request these vehicles, and it was kind of interesting to kind of watch as we interviewed some of the fleet drivers. Again, just just really a testimony, I think, to the CNG performance and how they operate. One thing I'll mention too here is to the alternative fuels tax credit, which is currently extended through 2021, is the 50 cent per GGE tax credit. As a municipal, being tax exempt entities, you can receive, if you are dispensing the fuel as either a retailer or for your private fleet, you can get this back in the form of a rebate. So I know that's been extended through 2021, so I'm not sure of the future of that, but at least for this year, you can get that rebate back as a municipal operator. So really, just in summary, I would say as a municipal, whether you are a gas provider or not, I think there's advantages in terms of the municipal fleet. I think you've heard several of the advantages, but again, these being return to base, I think I would just emphasize the flexibility of being able to provide the fueling infrastructure that best meets your fleet needs, and that can flex up or down, depending on your needs. And then also too, just looking for anchor fleet opportunities in terms of a public station, extremely important. So I'll be happy to answer any questions afterwards, but with that, I'll turn it over to Ian Skelton. Let me just mention that Atlanta Gas Light has been an important partner with our organization in terms of design, development, and maintenance. And so with that, Ian, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Rodney. I appreciate that. Appreciate your participation on the Clean Cities Georgia board, as well as Dave Tuskowski, of course, who's also on our board, and Frank, our coordinator. And I also would like to start out by commending both Dave with City Furniture and Dawn with Waste Management for their involvement and their company's leadership in the alternative fuel space. We couldn't do any of this without the fleets. They're the ones that have to commit and engage to purchase alternative fuel vehicles, CNG trucks, and fueling infrastructure. So we just really couldn't be prouder to support their efforts in the important work they're doing. Next slide, please. So AGL is a utility, Atlanta Gas Light, here in Georgia. We're part of the Southern Company, and we've been in the CNG space for many, many years. We got started with this back in really the 80s when we started doing conversions on our own vehicles. And then in the 90s, we created a customer-facing program where we started building CNG stations for our fleet customers. So we can provide the whole CNG value chain, soup to nuts. We can deliver the gas to the customer's premises, build and maintain the stations, and of course support their efforts in the CNG market. Next slide, please. So here's just an aerial drone footage of our CNG maintenance shop. We're co-located with our fleet management team in the Clayton Service Center in South Atlanta. This is where we base our portable equipment, monitor the CNG stations with our remote management application, and have a pretty well stocked warehouse of spare parts and materials to maintain CNG stations for our customers. And I'm going to talk mainly about infrastructure today, but I want to start out with a few general points regarding CNG. It's important to note that CNG can work very well in a lot of applications, but it's important to focus on locations and vehicles that use a lot of fuel and return to a central location, primarily because you've got some upfront costs in terms of the fueling infrastructure that you need to cover, and the higher the throughput through that station, the quicker the payback, as well as the return on the incremental cost of the vehicles. So, city vehicles, service vehicles, meter reading vehicles, of course, are ideal candidates. We have some 300 CNG vehicles in our own fleet. And then, of course, the other applications, transit, trucking, waste, are also ideal candidates because they tend to be centrally fueled and fixed route type of vehicles. If you have a well-developed public CNG fueling infrastructure, then you can branch out in other types of fleets that maybe not so fixed route based. But if you don't have public infrastructure in the area, then it's key to be able to fuel your own vehicles at a central location. Next slide, please. I do want to elaborate a little more on the Cummins heavy-duty engines. In addition to the vehicles that Dave covered, offered through Ford, and the heavy-duty vehicles that he mentioned, the Freightliner trucks and the other vehicles that are available today are primarily using the Cummins heavy-duty engines in the very largest size range. The whole lineup of Cummins engines has now been redeveloped and rebranded. They made some improvements to reduce the NOx emissions from down to 0.02 grams of NOx per horsepower hour. That is 90% cleaner than the current EPA standard. And this is a big deal, particularly in areas that are struggling to stay out of non-attainment with EPA for ground level ozone, since NOx is a precursor to ozone. The Cummins folks have an excellent tool on their website where you can go and search all the different manufacturers of heavy-duty vehicles and which ones offer CNG, which models are offered in CNG on their website. Next one, please. So we'll back up just 1 second, Alicia, on that previous slide. I wanted to point out that the 6.7N engine is the most recent addition to the Cummins lineup. And this engine is the right size engine for school buses, and CNG school buses are available. The folks at Thomas Built have a Class C school bus they recently introduced with this engine, and they are now making this available in addition to the propane and electric vehicles that they have for school buses. The L9 engine was recently rebranded. It was previously the 8.9 liter engine. That was the first one they came out with, and that engine's been the workhorse for most of the refuse trucks and city buses over the years. And then the ISX 12N that came out in 2013-14 is the largest one in their lineup. As Dave mentioned that that's the truck that powers the Class 8 tractors that can haul the 80,000-pound GVW. Next slide, thanks. I wanted to highlight this particular study because it's an important piece of work that was done by Cal Riverside. Even though the Cummins low NOx engines are certified to 0.02 grams, or 90% cleaner than the 0.2 grams of NOx, that's in the test emissions certification process. And what they found is by testing these vehicles in actual real world applications where they're going in and out of ports, stop and go traffic in cities and distribution centers, idling, they actually found that the diesel engines that were certified to 0.2 grams are actually on average emitting up to 5 times higher NOx emissions, whereas the natural gas vehicles are actually emitting 90% less even than the 0.02 standard they were certified to. So there's a huge difference in the real world emissions of NOx between the natural gas low NOx engines and the new clean diesel engines that are out today. Next slide, please. Of course, price is a very important part of the analysis for any fleet. Fuel costs are, historically have been very volatile, but with natural gas, since the commodity cost of the gas is only about 23% of the total cost of CNG at the pump, compared to diesel, which is 60–70% of the total cost of the pump. If there's a spike in the cost of oil, you're definitely going to see a huge impact at the pump. Whereas with natural gas, if the commodity cost, the underlying commodity increases, it's not as apparent at the pump, at the total cost of CNG, because so much of it is really the fixed costs of the infrastructure and maintenance on the infrastructure. So this is an important point. A lot of the large fleets that are considering alternative fuels really like this, because there's a lot of uncertainty around what fuel costs are going to be, and anything they can do to help eliminate some of that is a big deal for them. Next slide, please. We talked a little bit earlier about renewable natural gas. Companies like Waste Management and others are deploying RNG as a substitute for pipeline natural gas, and able to show an increase in the reduction of their well-to-wheels greenhouse gas emissions. With typical landfill gas, it's up in the 80% reductions compared to diesel, and it can go carbon negative with certain types of agricultural waste, RNG from ag waste digesters. Last year, the amount of RNG used in natural gas vehicles in this country increased to 53% of the total amount used. So there's a lot of it, and a lot more coming online. So if you want to learn more about RNG, go to the Clean Cities Georgia events page. We did an RNG seminar back in May, and there's a recording and I believe a PowerPoint presentation there with a lot of great information on RNG. I encourage you to check that out. Next slide, please. Atlanta Gas Light has been providing for RNG for our customers for many years. About 10 years ago, we filed the TS1 rate that allows us to take what we call high BTU gas or pipeline quality gas into our system from projects like landfill gas RNG plants. And to enable the delivery of that gas to market, we also have a separate TS2 rate where we are able to transport gas that is cleaned up enough to inject it into a dedicated pipeline, delivered from point A to point B, but it's not necessarily cleaned up enough to inject into our system. So there's no interconnection. It's just a dedicated standalone pipeline that, as a separate service, we can also provide. Next slide, please. So getting to the CNG fueling infrastructure discussion, You know, there are a lot of different angles, considerations, options for providing for CNG fueling. One of the first and most important decisions is to consider whether you can do time fill, or if you need to do fast fill, or some combination of both. Time fill is where you have the vehicles parked overnight anyway, and it's a more cost-effective, efficient way to fuel them over time, or over, say, 10, 12 hours overnight. Noted that both City Furniture and Waste Management are using this approach. There's a lot of advantages. For one thing, you can typically downsize the amount of CNG compression you need, because you are filling over an extended period of time. It also reduces the maintenance on the compressors, since they're not going to start and stop as much, which puts wear and tear on the components. You have the opportunity potentially to use some off-peak electricity. Some utilities offer lower cost electricity if you wait until after 7 p.m. or 9 p.m. to start up your compressors. And then last but not least, you tend to get a fuller fill because you don't have as much of the heat of compression when you're fueling a CNG vehicle. And so you can get more like 90% of the total tank capacity versus, say, about 80%. So you get more range out of the same tank when you're doing the time fill than compared to fast fill. Now, of course, a lot of fleets may not be able to do time fill. It's not how they use their vehicles. And in that case, then you design the station for filling the vehicles on the fast fill basis, we call it, or more or less the same amount of time as it would take to fuel a diesel or gasoline vehicle. And then, of course, it's very important to understand what your vehicle arrival and fueling patterns are. Can you make decisions to ask your team to fill up, half of them fill up in the morning before they leave, and the other half in the afternoon when they come in? That can make a big difference. Everybody's trying to fill up at 8 a.m. in the morning before they head out, and you've got to design a higher horsepower, higher CFM capacity station to fast fill those vehicles. Then other considerations: do you need backup redundant compressors? If you're running bi-fuel vehicles, maybe not. If you're dedicated, possibly so. Are you going to open your station up for others? Do you need a fuel management system? If you're going to sell it to others, then you would need metered dispensers, fuel management system. If you're not, then maybe not. And then as far as the location of the station goes, you know, you could co-locate with another fleet somewhere, work with a local truck stop or gas station to add CNG at their site. Maybe you want to have a private station for your own use behind the fence, but you want to make it available to others in the area as a service, or to help drive some throughput for your station and share some of that fixed cost over a larger volume. In that case, you could have a dispenser on the outside of the fence and sell fuel to other fleets in the area. Next slide, please. This is a schematic of a fast fill station on top. As you know, the gas comes in via pipeline. There's a dryer to reduce the moisture content per code, and then the compression. In a fast fill station, you typically have a fair amount of storage. Most of the gas is delivered coming in. You're compressing it as you use it, but you do have storage to facilitate a orderly transfer and fast fill fueling of the vehicles, and to provide some buffer for the compressor operations. At the bottom, the time fill station schematic shows that you don't have storage, or maybe you only have a small vessel, but you're basically compressing the gas directly into the vehicles overnight, and the time fill posts and hoses, as you see on the right there, is where the vehicles will connect to. The drivers come in and plug in the vehicle and then walk away. Come back in the morning, the vehicle's full. So Actually, that's another advantage of time fill. You don't have as much time where your drivers are queuing up trying to fuel somewhere. There's some labor savings there that can actually be very material. Next slide, please. So our service offering for our customers at Atlanta Gas Light for CNG is primarily our V52 rate. We have a rate where we can build, own, and maintain the CNG station for customers. We'll work with the customer to design the type of station that meets their needs. The customer typically provides the land and does any site development, but we'll come in and install the infrastructure, and we'll be the partner behind the scenes to build, own, and maintain the fueling infrastructure. We're not actually making the CNG and selling the CNG. We're enabling the customer to make their own CNG with the equipment we provide. So they would post any retail sales price that they want to. If they're going to be selling to others, they would pay the electric bill and the gas bill separately. But we would recover our costs for the infrastructure and comprehensive maintenance, 24-hour service and repairs on the infrastructure through a simple 1.5% per month monthly facilities charge. Next slide, please. This is an example of how that rate would be applied, a very simplistic example, just assuming a nice round number of $2 million station, 30,000 gasoline gallon equivalents per month. And then based on recent gas prices delivered into the meter, you're running about 50 cents thereabout per gallon. And as you can see on the second line, the V52 facilities charge, in this case, with the 30,000 GGEs per month example, that works out to about $1 per GGE. However, for that same station, you could put maybe 60,000 GGEs through that, in which case the math would work out for this line item would only be 50 cents per GGE. So maybe as low as $1.10 per gallon. So again, this illustrates the point I was making earlier that, you know, the throughput on the infrastructure is an important consideration. This example also does not include the 50 cent per gallon alternative fuels tax credit that Rodney mentioned that could also come into play. Here's an example of one of the stations we built for one of our customers, DeKalb County, another Clean Cities Georgia board member, has in the order of 300 CNG vehicles now, and this is a really successful project. This particular station we built for them in Decatur at their central transfer facility is one of the public stations in the Atlanta area. Next one, please. A second example of the station we built for City of Augusta at their, this is the second one they developed. We built this one for them under a turnkey construction project, and we do the maintenance for them. It's a public station right off of I-20 and Bobby Jones Expressway. Next one, please. So if you want to know where the public CNG stations are, the Department of Energy's Alternative Fuel Data Center includes a station locator for alternative fuel stations. You can go to this link and click on locate stations, put in CNG and your zip code, and it will show you where all the public stations are. And here's a map of the stations in Georgia. There's some 25 public stations in Georgia, at least that many of private stations as well that are not shown on the map. This is a map that includes the stations that others have developed. It's not just the Atlanta Gas Light stations, but we provide this to fleet operators so they know where all the CNG stations are. Next slide, please. Thank you. The Federal Highway Administration has a program where they have been encouraging the development of an alternative fuel vehicle corridors network for alternative fuel vehicles. And the map showing here is the current, in the green is the CNG ready corridors. We just recently submitted, Clean Cities does a lot of work on this, the application, and got I-95 designated as CNG ready based on the stations in Jacksonville and the stations in Savannah now. So basically this enables people to know that there are CNG stations every 150 miles along these highlighted routes. And also the intent is that when infrastructure dollars become available through some of the federal funding that's being discussed for alternative fuels, that the CNG and other alternative fuel corridors would be the first in line for any funding for additional stations. And we're also working with the state folks to try to get some signage up on these stations as well, on these corridors as well. Next slide, please. So I'm going to wrap up just briefly with a couple of slides on some of the equipment that we actually represent. The larger compressor packages that we install are typically the aerial compressors packaged by either CNG or JW Power, but we also have been a distributor for Bauer compressors for many years. Bauer manufactures compressors on the smaller end of the range, but they have some unique equipment. The X-Fill package you see on the left, we've installed at a number of locations at our service centers and for some of our customers. It's a compressor that actually mounts on top of the storage. So if you've got limited space, it helps to develop a very compact footprint for a new CNG station. Next slide, please. On the even smaller end of the range, there's a company named Fuelmaker that makes CNG fueling appliances. These are small time fill units that you could install for $5,000 or $6,000. So if you're on a limited budget and you've got a location where you've only got a handful of vehicles, but you want to deploy CNG, this provides some options. And there's also a company named Ingevity who has manufactured or developed a low pressure absorption CNG storage system for light to medium duty vehicles. Ingevity is also one of our board members here at Clean Cities, Georgia. So I want to mention their work and the fact that they have worked with Fuelmaker to develop a modified version of this FMQ time fill unit. So it's set up for fueling the vehicles to the 900 PSI that they're running in their activated carbon storage system. And this system actually enables you to store essentially the same amount of fuel on this in the same tank or the same size tank, but at 900 PSI instead of 3,600 PSI, which provides a lot of benefits in terms of reducing costs for fueling of the vehicles. And the FMQ2 900 PSI version is available through Ingevity. So I wanted to mention that as well. And I think that is it. For more information on CNG fueling infrastructure, anything that Atlanta Gaslight can do for you. And again, thank you very much, Alicia and Frank, for putting this together. Appreciate the time today.
Thank you,
Back
Ian.
to Alicia and Frank for Q&A session.
Hey, thank you, Ian, and thank you to Dawn and Dave and Rodney and Alicia for helping us to kick this off. And I'm gonna, Ian, I know you just went off camera, but I'm gonna propose this question to Ian and David and Rodney. You know, a lot of information was shared about designing systems and about how small companies and large companies have adopted the natural gas technology. It's not new technology. It's not in testing stage. It's out there. It's available. It's beyond that. It's no longer early adopter status anymore. So it is business as normal for some companies. But the thought of someone starting out, a small company, evaluating whether they wanted to enter into the natural gas space, what are the types of services that you would provide? And David, maybe you can start with you as far as looking at someone's fleet and evaluating trips and routes and duty cycles and stuff like that. What kind of support do you guys provide, David and Ian or Rodney? Start with David.
That's a great question, Frank. One of the things that we do is sit down with the fleet and understand how they operate. Secondly, take that information, that data, and do an analysis to see, does it make sense? Will the increased capital investment be offset in a reasonable period of time by the reduced operating expenses? And so we modeled various scenarios with various vehicles and various scales over time to make sure it makes sense. At Peach State, I do that primarily, and there is no charge. We're always happy to do that. Even for a fleet that's out of state, such as Florida, if you wanted some help to begin the modeling process, reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you with that.
Thank you, David. And Ian, I know that. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just to add to what David said, I think just to kind of emphasize, really for the municipals that we work with, going in and identifying fleet opportunities, even outside the municipal. So you've got the municipal that has a fleet, the county, and so you've got other potential fleet operators there that are within the municipal jurisdiction. And so to me, that's critical, because that really gets to what David was talking about in terms of infrastructure investment. I mean, how big does it need to be? Does it need to be private? Does it need to be public? And so we've seen startups that move right into a public operation because of the committed GGEs to a project.
Thank you. And Ian, I know the great footprint, what you've done in Georgia, but obviously Florida, to our Florida friends, you've got natural gas providers in Florida that can do the same thing or comparable to what Atlanta Gas Light is doing in Florida. Don, I know you've got a great network of Florida natural gas providers, but Ian, that assessment of where to start, how to build a station, maybe building a station is not the right step, right? It might be trying to find a public station nearby to, maybe it's using one of Waste Management's public stations and kind of making that commitment to buy fuel from them. Oh, you're on mute, Ian.
Yeah, that helps. Yeah, I'm based in Atlanta, and our service territory, for the most part, is Georgia. But we're happy to help. I'm happy to help if anybody just wants to consult with me. I've spent many years kind of learning who all's in this space and what vehicles are available, and as a board member of the National NGV America Association, I have my finger on the pulse with what's coming down the line in terms of incentives and such. So happy to help. I would defer to people like David, who are the experts in the field on the vehicle side of things. But we've been building and maintaining CNG stations for customers since the early 90s. So I can give a pretty good representation of what options are available for the fueling side, and help them locate partners in Florida that can assist them with that.
Thank you. And Don, Waste Management, obviously to be commended for the commitment to alternative fuels for many, many years, and how you have rolled out this program nationally. I know that, as a Waste Management customer, I know those trucks are a lot quieter. I know that, maybe it allows Waste Management to start their routes a little bit earlier in the day, and that closed loop now of collecting the waste, turning the waste into fuel, putting that fuel back into the vehicles. You guys are just to be commended. And obviously, you said it, Waste Management is a Fortune 200 company. You're in business to stay in business and make money, but so obviously there has to be that return, and you've got your CFO, watching every penny when it comes to this kind of investment, but obviously there's a return on the investment as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we do expect that we spend about $50,000 more per truck for a comparable CNG over a diesel truck. But as many of the speakers highlighted, the cost of the fuel, we see that savings. We have had to retrain our mechanics, but that's, you know, we've been doing that for many years. That's gone well. And I think many of the speakers said our drivers, you know, like driving the trucks too. You know, they're quieter, they feel better in the community about doing that. And it's just a huge commitment on the sustainability front. We have looked at some electric vehicles, so, you know, I didn't go into that, but at this point, we're not doing a heavy buy on that. It's just, we don't feel electric has made the transition to the heavy truck industry yet, and I think most of the speakers agreed with that as well. But we're doing some interesting things even on our landfills. A lot of our yellow iron, we're turning to electric and or CNG powered yellow iron. I didn't get into that, but because it's not extensive. We're also doing some remoteless yellow iron. In Denver, we have a site where people are off-site sitting in a room controlling our yellow iron and the landfill remotely. We think that's a way to attract new workers, younger workers, millennials who wouldn't necessarily work on a landfill but would love to sit in a room with a joystick moving heavy equipment. So we're trying to get creative and not only address fuel but address our current and future workforce needs.
Great, thank you. Alicia, I'll turn it over to you if you've got any more questions in the chat or the question section.
I was going to say there is one question, Frank. It says that will Clean Cities be helping with getting infrastructure grants for CNG station and electric charging stations and the new electric trucks?
Well, yes, we certainly will when those grants are let. There was just a recent letting of grants and the applications, gosh, I think they were due this week. So we know that the administration had and the Department of Energy had released a significant amount of funds for different technologies and fuels. And we monitor that. And so we'll stay in touch with that. And you know, the best way to know if those grants are out is to join your local Clean Cities as we do announcements on those grant opportunities, and we love to work with our stakeholders and members to be able to design something. And I think if you have something in mind, you know, my plug would be is talk to us now so that we can have a sense of what a project might look like before the grant is let. Because once that hits the airways, if you will, there's not a lot of time to put together the program or your grant to get it written and get it submitted for consideration. And then certainly pay attention to the Diesel Emissions Reduction Act grants, the DERA grants that can help. It was mentioned about school buses and about replacing diesel buses with propane or natural gas buses. And that's certainly a program that's available, but nothing available right now, but stay tuned. It's still, you know, we've got the second half of the year, and we certainly look forward to working with anybody that's got a great idea and see if we can't refine that to be able to qualify for grant dollars.
Thank you so much, Frank. That was actually the only question that we have. I don't know if anybody else that's still here, if you guys have any additional questions that you would like to ask, go ahead and please put it in the questions or the chat within the next few minutes. We still have about 3 minutes left.
I will mention, Alicia, that both of our websites will have this presentation recorded and made available here in a few days on our websites if you've got more questions. And certainly, if you need to get in touch with us, you've got our emails. We can connect you with any of the panelists. Want to thank the panelists for doing that. Dave Clevenger from City Furniture. Great to see how a small company has taken this on, these baby steps that are now pretty significant in what they've done in the state of Florida, and certainly Waste Management. And you've got partners that are willing to help you, many vendors and partners willing to help you to move into this space. And who knows, you start with 1 or 2 trucks, eventually you grow to maybe you have your own fueling station, maybe you grow into using renewable natural gas. Ian mentioned that presentation that we did, and that's just kind of that evolution of you know, a cleaner burning fuel that has additional benefits as well. So I'll turn it back to the panelists. Any closing comments before we wrap up? All right. Well, thank you to everyone that presented and everyone that joined, and stay tuned for more webinars like this. Alicia, thanks. Great to do this with you. All of our friends in Florida, be well, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you again, everyone, for joining, and the panelists. Everything was great. And yes, please stay tuned for the recording and presentations to be available. Everyone have a great day.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.